It's Platt, and today we try one trippy beer. That's next to Platt's Beer of the Week. So the particular beer we have today is Space Dust IPA. Comes from the fine folks at Elysian Brewing. We've reviewed one of their beers before when we discussed the Def Leppard Pale Ale. That was a collaboration with the band. A little recap on the background of Elysian Brewing. Elysian was founded in 1995 by three friends in the Seattle area. That next year, in 1996, they opened up a 20-barrel brew house in the Capitol Hill neighborhood of Seattle. Besides the brewery, they ended up opening up 3 different brew pubs throughout the area, including one near CenturyLink Field. That's where the Seahawks play today. In 2011, things were going good, so they decided to expand and open a production facility, a 35,000 square foot production facility, where they moved headquarters, and technically Elysian Brewing is still there today. However, HQ is now in St. Louis because in 2015 they sold to Anheuser-Busch, like a lot of these breweries do. Thus, they are no longer craft. They're part of their portfolio brands. However, before they sold out, though, they did have a real good reputation in the craft beer world. Their beers won awards. Even their brew pubs won awards. Their brew pubs won Best Large Brew Pub 3 different times at the Great American Beer Festival in 1999, 2003, and 2004. One of the things that kind of got known is they had several beers that were musically inspired. Of course, the Def Leppard collaborations won. They did another beer called Loser, which is inspired by the local grunge scene up there in Seattle. They also did a collaboration with apparently a local rock radio station, and one of the beers was kind of an homage to Ozzy Osbourne. It was called Dark of the Moon, obviously a play on Bark at the Moon, and it was a pumpkin ale, which is what another thing they're also really known for. Elysian's done several of these beers. One of them is known as Night Owl Pumpkin Ale. They have one out now called Punkachino, which is a coffee pumpkin ale. And they also have the one I like is called The Great Pumpkin, for all you peanut fans out there. It is a pumpkin, or it's called an IPA, an Imperial Pumpkin Ale. A nice little variety of pumpkin beers that they roll out seasonally. I think 1 or 2 they keep going all year. They also have done in the past pumpkin beer festivals just for pumpkin beers. If you've ever been to a few beer festivals and ran into these pumpkin beer people, they make a small percentage of the crowd, but they are very loyal to their pumpkin beers for sure, so I'm sure they love that. Speaking of beers, let's talk quickly about some of their other beers. First is one called Wise ESB. ESB stands for Extra Special Bitters. This particular beer is 5.9%. However, and that's about in par for that style. That style is traditionally kind of a British pub ale. If you've ever been overseas, you might hear them just use the term a pint of bitters, and that's what they're referring. This beer was the first beer produced by Elysian, so obviously has great meaning for the company. Next is a beer called The Fix, 9% alcohol by volume. And this is a coffee imperial stout. Apparently they source their coffee from a local provider called Stumptown. They use their cold brew. Keep it local, I guess. And then finally, Super Fuzz, 6.4% ABV. This is a blood orange pale ale. They add the blood orange in fermentation, not during the actual brewing process. As far as just the whole line of beers they have, it's leans slightly IPA, not too bad. They have a decent little variety, but you got to remember now that they're part of the Anheuser-Busch portfolio, and I think they're in what's called the Brewers Alliance. They're kind of like arm of craft beers, that their beers have to fit into a greater portfolio, so it would be kind of silly for them just to blow it out and have a huge line when they're just part of a bigger line. So with that being said, before we try this beer though, let's check out the stats. So today what I want to talk to you about is dank, or dankiness in beer. When researching this beer, that term kind of came up. Just with my head brewer at work and just people in the beer, I've always heard that term dankiness, and of course I understand what it means. It's a kind of a pot reference to just that fresh smell of fresh, moist, weed, but also applies to hops, because remember, hops and cannabis are in the same family. So a lot of beers now, especially since legalization of cannabis is spread across the country, a lot of people, especially brewers, feel a little more comfortable using that term in certain cannabis-related verbiage. Here you've got the little hop plant. It looks like it's kind of blowing smoke or whatever. So again, we get the implied nature. So I thought I'd kind of talk about some of these beers out there now are really pushing the envelope as far as quote-unquote dankiness goes, or they market themselves as being extra danky. First one I want to talk about is actually the sister beer to this one, and it's one I was looking for when I found this beer. It's called Dank Dust from Elysian Brewing. 8.4% ABV, 73 IBUs, plenty of hop goodness. The place I found it at was it was a bar, and they had it on tap, and the bartender, she gave it to me. She's like, hey, take a smell. And it smelled like you're putting your nose in a fresh bag of weed. And then when I drank it, it was like you put the beer in the bag of weed and just drank the bag of weed. It was quite the experience, to say the least, but actually a really well executed beer too, which is really cool. Next, from the folks at Knee Deep Brewing, they have Breaking Bud, obviously playing on the TV show Breaking Bad, and then also a vague cannabis reference. 50 IBUs, not insanely high, but Knee Deep has done several of these really big, danky beers. They have kind of a reputation as being someone that can pull that type of beer off. Next, from the folks at Founders, who are known for their stouts, however, they have a beer called Redonkulous, kind of like the name. It is a imperial red ale with incredible 90 IBU. So you hop heads and pot heads might want to keep an eye out for that one. And then finally, the folks at Sweetwater Brewing have a beer called Dank Tank Fresh Sticky Nugs. It's an ale, I believe. I think the name of the beer just gives you all you need to know. 60 IBUs. They're going to pound you with some really nice fresh hops. You're going to get that aroma and make you think about cannabis. Well, enough about that. Let's try this little danky beer. Oh, I can smell it as it pours. All right, we've got a little traditional cloudiness in there. Nice little, very light khaki head. Again, I'm picking up the hops from here. Oh, and it is there. Just plenty of hop freshness, but it's not over the top. Again, if you can compare the two, Dank Dust and this one, Dank Dust is really going to push that more, but somehow it works. Even though it's a lot, it doesn't go over the board. But anyway, this is still a very nice aroma. Let's give it a try. Oh, that's nice. Just a hint of sweetness on the tongue, not a lot. I'm getting more kind of middle of the tongue action. The hops linger in the back. They're not going anywhere. You're definitely going to have an aftertaste. This beer at 8.2%. I'm not getting a burning or anything, but you kind of know you're drinking something there. You got a little something there. Body's medium. Enough carbonation to kind of keep this beer moving along and not necessarily linger too long on your palate. Quite drinkable. This is not something, though, that you're going to crush. This is not one of those crushable IPAs. This one you're going to let simmer a little bit. Real nice, just a nice hoppy IPA. Doesn't necessarily remind you of a Cheech and Chong record, but well executed. But like I said, if you're into that, really dankiness, look for the Dank Dust. And if I get a chance, I will definitely do a review on that. But Space Dust is an excellent beer too. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe down below. Also, please like it because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or beers that you'd like me to try, please leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.